All right, here we go. Yep. Let's see. That's not what I'm looking for. All right. We're right on time this time. Yep. And I want to highlight there is some beautiful new flowers. Beautiful new flowers that Tanya from San Diego, I believe, brought. So, folks, we're going to begin in just a moment. Let me just double check. I think our audio, I think it should be fine. You never know. Let's see. I think we should be good. Again, day 38. Day 38. There we go. Let me just double check that. Let's see. All right. 38. There's Joan Hoyle. Listen how clear that is. Very, very clear. Okay. Well, I'm excited about that. And we do have some updates, though. Well, I consider them updates. I'm not sure everyone considers them updates. Again, right now we are live. Yes, we are live on X and YouTube and Facebook. Yep, all three. Yes. You know, I've been up really early, everyone. So I don't know how many. I'll post the clips later. But well, hold on. Let me just. I want to just double check. I think the audio is very good actually on this day 38. Listen to how clear that is. Yep, very nice. So if you are on YouTube, you can certainly send super chats and I'll answer some questions. If you're on Facebook, you can send stars and I'll answer some of your questions. And we are going to officially kick off because coming up at the top of the next hour, we are going to be also live on the radio. But I want to give a special. She stopped by yesterday. Her name is Tanya, and she came by this morning. I met her yesterday, then she came back this morning, and she brought some beautiful new yellow flowers. So for those that are just tuning in, this is in front of the home, and I also I want to show a photo. So I was here this morning, and depending on where you are, I think we have the time difference down now. They're not big on changing the clocks on daylight savings. Tanya brought some beautiful flowers and have really, I mean, look at how extravagant this is. And you know what's also nice? So we got quite a bit of rain last night, and I think it's actually helped some of the other flowers. It's helped some of the flowers. So, because we were just talking, I was just talking with Matt from Fox, and we're aware that some of them are drooping. I would prefer to get rid of some of these signs that I think just clutter. The flowers are great. I think this would look great if it was just flowers. I'd really like to get rid of all these signs. All due respect to Little Pinky. I mean, some of them are okay, not many of them, but some of these are just it's overkill. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these signs start to disappear. Some of the candles, by the way, let me show you a photo, and then we'll officially start on this day 38. So just so depending on where you are, if you're in Tucson, we're live each. We are now 3 hours behind New York. We're 3 hours behind Eastern. So right now in New York City or Boston or wherever, the East Coast, Eastern time, the time is we're coming up on 1 o'clock. Now in Chicago, we're approaching noon, and then this is News Nation. And then Here in Tucson, and same as LA, we're 3 hours behind. We're coming up to 10 o'clock. But I want to show you a quick photo of boy, there's one person on the street. He's almost intent on trying to run me down. Um, um, but let me just show you what it looks like this morning. So I was live with Julie Grant on Court TV. I said, boy, there's no one on the street yet. He's intent on trying to run me down. Um, News Nation has arrived. Fox is here. Let me show you what it looked like. It actually does look nice. I think that's a decent. I think it's a decent photo. See, that's what the flowers look like with the lights all lit up. I think that it actually looks nice. Now, I did post a video on TikTok. I'll also post one. I think there's another one. See, some of the lights with the flowers, they look nice. I also like that with the lights in the darkness, you can't see the signs. I just think the signs add so much clutter. Yeah, this is a video. This is what it looked like at 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock this morning, 8 o'clock Eastern. Julie Grant on Court TV looked, boy, some of the people that put some of the lights, it really does look nice, has a nice glow. I also want to mention, and again, we're going to officially kick off in just a few moments, but I wanted to also mention that, hold on one moment, folks. Some people insist on contacting me just when I'm going live. I did want to, let's just check the time. Okay. I did want to mention, and again, everyone, it's day 38, and there are some developments. I know that some updates, some people don't consider them updates, but for those of you that follow the case, I think you would recognize that it is in fact an update. But one thing, a couple of things I want to mention. Number one, coming here, I noticed much more people are leaving here in this neighborhood around the surrounding area, but they're leaving the lights on all night. When I was around, so I got here at 5 o'clock this morning, 8 o'clock Eastern. Um, it I see far more people leaving their lights on, so there is more light. And I'm also, I was just thinking, I was telling Julie Grant of Court TV that I'm seeing so many signs and people. There's security firms out here now. Now I'm not saying they didn't have them in the past, and I think Jennifer had some interesting comments that we're going to talk about as well. But I've just noticed an uptick every time because I walk around a lot. Every time I come around, you see like an alarm company, security company. I see more signs on people's property. This property is protected. But I really notice in the early morning that more people are leaving their lights on overnight. So I think that is different. I know that's different, as a matter of fact. And folks, what a difference. I mean, when I first was on Court TV here, going back to the first week, I mean, I was next to Good Morning America, Fox and Friends, The Today Show, CBS Mornings, all the Tucson local shows. And this morning, this morning, it did feel a little bit like December 26th. I was then the only one out here this morning, but News Nation is breaking down, so they're here, and we're going to officially, as I said, I think we should be set. So Pete says we're good to go. Good. Other people are messaging me. Sometimes I wonder, like, where do certain things stem from? And so people here, and it's like always changing. The latest now is, suddenly I had 3 or 4 people say, "Did you check 3 houses down?" Did I check 3 houses down? Oh, good. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you to X7 Warrior. Thank you on YouTube. Good. A live chat. Thank you. Super chat. Thank you. X7 Warrior RMV. Thank you for that. Uh now, so my point is, so somebody um all of a sudden I was getting not like an overabundance, but a number of messages. Did they check 3 doors down? What you have to recognize, and I number one, I think a lot of people weren't on the story day one. Number two, what you here's what you should realize. What you're looking at right now, and again in front of Nancy Guthrie's home and the beautiful display of flowers. But what I think a lot of people don't, and I would understand that not everyone would know this, but the first day, this entire street was filled with Pima County sheriffs, and there were cadaver dogs, there were canine, they were searching everywhere. Every house around here, they were knocking on the doors. Can we go in your yard? The whole thing. So the people to say, you know, again, I don't know where this came from, but I've had like 3 or 4 people now telling me you got to go search. She's 3 doors down. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Because I do see people, by the way, put, how come we don't see any canines out there? But the fact of the matter is, they did have canines out here, and there was no reason to then come back. They feel they searched this area very, very thoroughly. I can tell you that in this area, the FBI, Pima County Sheriff, they have a very good handle on literally everyone that lives in the grid around this area. So the idea that somehow that they would have missed that, I don't. Yeah, she's 3 doors down. Like I don't. But like the person that said that to me, the person that messaged me doesn't realize that the first day, that entire Sunday, this whole area was just flooded with people. So no, we're gonna start in just 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and 2 minutes, 2 minutes out. Yep, check that. I- I'm live right now. I saw some of the flowers you brought are beautiful. Wow, beautiful. I won't show you. I know you want to privacy. Yep. Well, yes. I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna shut this door, okay? Okay, folks, we're gonna go down a little bit. All right, we're gonna move down in front of the house. Okay. Okay. And this looks like a good spot, and this is where we are. And even some interesting reports. Again, folks, it is in fact day 38. The flowers are looking better. They're looking a lot better. We're gonna start in just a moment. Debbie is so terrific. Oh, thank you. We also have thank you very much, Zully G8540. Good. On YouTube. The YouTube audience is alive. Well, folks, again, we're going to begin right now. It is day 38. What you are looking at, this is the front of the home of Nancy Guthrie. And we do have some updates, maybe not as many as or as detailed. I want to mention, I know some people, their idea of an update is did they find her, but we're certainly not there just of yet. But a couple things, again, we're not in a rush, but this portion of our program, I want to thank the folks at the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Remember, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge, and they're proud sponsors of the website, which is depetro.com. So right now, I also remember Propane Plus, Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Check them out online at propaneplus.com. It's the Johnson family. They are available 24/7 online, bringing you propane. If you use propane, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, you want to go with Propane Plus. So, just a couple things. First of all, the weather's been a little spotty. We had heavy rain last night. We had lightning storms and even thunder last night, and it was just raining a few moments ago, and actually, it is still on and off drizzle a little bit, but for the most part, then the sun breaks out. So, but I want to get to, I think it's interesting that there's a story that Brian Enton of News Nation that he broke, which was that there's a neighbor, a couple things, a neighbor that spotted a man walking around here who did not belong here. And that seems to tie in with the timeline of January 11th. January 11th. So, what's so bizarre now, again, she describes, and then I noticed the New York Post also picked up on the story. And she just describes someone had a baseball cap. He was walking, but not walking fast, slow. This neighbor, said it looked like he didn't belong. If that somehow is tied in, that certainly moves the timeline and changes the dynamic to me that this whole thing of whoever was stalking out Nancy, that this whole thing could have started a lot earlier. That's number one. Number two, now I was on Court TV this morning. I'll post the cuts, some of the video of it, excuse me, with Julie Grant, but also Jennifer Coffindaffer, former FBI agent. We've had her on the show. She's tremendous. There is also a story, again, I think it was News Nation, but one of the things, and we were talking about on Court TV, is this. I think it's interesting. Could this be a case of elder abuse? And Jen Coffindaffer, who I will have on the program again, we'll have her on, but she was mentioning the possibility that she thinks it could be someone who had either worked in the house or been like a nurse's aide. And I think it's interesting that that issue is getting more attention, where more people are starting to wonder and look at that. Maybe it's your mom and your dad, and they have a lot of people, or your grandmother, whatever, but how much do you really check? And maybe you have a nurse that comes in, or someone that does physical therapy, or someone, sometimes people have people that come in to the house. And I think it's an interesting discussion of how much do we really vet them? Oh, so and so's out sick, so I'm here for today. Like, how much are they really going through that? I mentioned that last week the FBI seemed very interested in, and by the way, I want to thank Dee Bevenu on YouTube. Thank you very much. And Debbie is cranking it out. Yes, the fake flowers are definitely an upgrade. I vote for more fake flowers that will last and less of these signs that Pinky was doing. But, I think the idea, so I want to just finish up that thought. Jen Coffindaffer was saying this morning on Court TV that, and I think News Nation, Brian Enton did a piece on this. Is it possible it was elder abuse? Someone that knew that Nancy Guthrie, again, the home you're looking at right now, someone that would know that she was alone, living alone. We also know that she apparently was highly dependent on very powerful hearing aids. And but who would know that um, that she didn't have a dog and didn't have an alarm system? And I want to touch on that just for a moment because I don't think people talk about targeted, and I don't think that gets enough attention. And I want to just show you there's a couple of signs that are new here at the property. And we're going to walk up. And obviously, the first one is no trespassing private property. But I want to show you this sign. It's also on the other side, and it is simply safe. And now that's also new, monitored 24/7 home security. But that was not there. And as much as people are talking about whether or not it was targeted, if you, to me, if you just step back for a moment, if you and I, and we're, I'm just saying, hypothetical, and we're casing the neighborhood, so to speak, and we're looking at different houses. There, by the way, there are professional B&E crews. So let's say that we're one of those B&E crews, and there's 5 houses on a street and we go to the first house. And as we're going by, and I walk a lot around here. As a matter of fact, I walk all over these streets. Number one, you get to know them. Number two, a lot of the neighbors come out and we'll chat. But let's just go with, let me finish this. So 5 homes. The first one, as we're going by, let's just say we're walking and suddenly a dog starts barking. Okay, well, that is, I would think that certainly that's a possibility. It does become not a priority if there is in fact a dog at the home, even if it's a small dog, by the way. But just something, even if it's a yesterday, a woman came, had oranges, and she had just I think a mini Yorkie. But even something like that, anything that would bark. So that's house number one. We go to the second house, and the second house, we don't see a sign about security, but we see a lot of cars, and we see a teenager, and we see a second teenager, and we see people in and out of the house. And to me, that looks like a busy house, right? So that's the second house. Is there's just maybe four, maybe sometimes even 5 cars in and out of the driveway, and we see lights on, and just a lot of activity in this hypothetical house. Let's go to house number three. We go to house number three on the street, and we see a sign that says, this house has 24/7 security. So, house number one, dog. House number two has, um, very a lot of activity. Teenagers, looks like it maybe even a family with teenagers, parents, they're in and out of the house. House number three, we see, and it's the sign you're looking at for those that are watching right now, something akin to monitored 24/7, simply safe home security. Then we go to house number four. And house number four, we notice has no dog, um, doesn't have a lot of lights, and we don't see a security system. So house number four maybe jumps out. And then we go to house number five. But house number four has a house right next door to it. And the house right next door and even across the street has a good view that could then see anybody approaching the property. Then we go to house number five. And house number five is pretty, I don't want to say desolate, but definitely a lot of privacy, definitely a lot of barriers, empty lot, and we don't see any activity. My point is, if you were in fact a B&E crew, to me, right there, that becomes, we're not going where the dog is. We're not going, you don't want a house where there's a lot of activity. That would be difficult. The other house has the security. We don't want that. We don't want an alarm going off. House number four Maybe house number 4 looks pretty good, but house number 4 isn't that hidden. And maybe there's like a Gladys Kravitz type that lives across the street, the type of person that's always looking out the window and always notices everything going on. So by process of elimination, house number 5 that maybe has barrier lot, no dog, no security signs, and then maybe we even see what seems to be an older person gingerly going down to the mailbox. So to me, and again, I'm gonna go through the whole litany of what we know and what we don't know. But when we talk about targeted, I'm not saying that people sometimes don't try to go into a home where there's an animal, but it certainly would not be first on the list. I'm not saying that, someone might try, like, I just don't think you're going into those other homes. But I think by that, no dog, no alarm system, 84-year-old woman, definitely some problems with mobility, getting around, and very reliant on, for apparently, very strong hearing aids. I think now we have our target. That's what I think. Now, I do want to mention what is the latest, and I am going to do that. But I also want to remind you, I'll tell you, and especially, I realize that we have people from all over, but if you're in the Rhode Island, Massachusetts area, Mike Rizzo, Capital Fence, give him a call today. The first line of defense could be a fence around your business or your residence. Commercial, residential, Capital Fence. Give them a call today. Free estimate. Serving Rhode Island and Massachusetts, it's Capital Fence. Call them at 401 618 4407. 401 618 4407. Online at capitalfenceRI.com. Owner Mike Rizzo, based in Cranston. Whether it's a fence or a gate, repair and maintenance, highest quality, free estimate, licensed and insured. Capital Fence, 401 618 4407. Okay, now number one, couple of things. Again, it is day 38. There is no identified suspect. There is no person of interest regarding Nancy Guthrie that we are aware of. Is it possible that they are, in fact, right now following someone? Is it possible that they're examining someone? Of course there is. But as of right now, they have not put out any information of, and you see this sometimes, we're looking to talk to this person. We want to talk more and find out about this person or that person. I want to go back to the Brown University situation back in December. Yes, they had the photo of the suspect who was seen leaving the auditorium, but then they put out a photo and said, we want to talk to this guy. And it was the person in blue that turned out to be the homeless guy, John, the homeless guy. So then they were doing like the outer circle. We don't know who the suspect is. Let's at least talk to that person. They haven't done that. They haven't done that. A couple of things. I think I've already squashed people saying you need to go check 3 doors down. I can assure you, Pima County Sheriff, FBI, they have searched this entire street, block. I know for whatever reason it didn't get a lot of coverage. People are asking about canines, cadaverdors. They blanketed this area and they were searching for anything like that. The other thing about, I know some people say, how come no more canine? But you got to realize now, this is day 38, plus we've had rain, plus you've had people into the area. For those that, because I do see people saying and questioning, how come they don't have the canines out? I don't know how effective it would be 38 days later and the amount of traffic and people that we've had walking all over here. It would be my understanding, and especially after it rained. Now, maybe in some circumstances it might be okay, but I would find that a little bit difficult to believe that that 38 days later, and let alone just this surrounding area. So the houses were searched. Now, someone sent me a thing today that FBI, they heard, is sending their elite negotiation team here. Um, I that did happen, but it happened the second week. I, right now, I am not aware of any negotiations with any type of potential kidnapper. I think that ship has sailed. I can assure you that I don't believe there's any type of FBI elite negotiating team. That did happen. It did happen the second week. I think it would have been right around February 9th or 10th. But I don't think right now we are unaware that there's any communication with the authorities and anyone who is claiming that they have information regarding the whereabouts of Nancy Guthrie. I have not heard, law enforcement has not said anything on that. Now, a couple other things. I think the sheriff, as we know, hasn't done a press conference. He was doing one-on-one interviews. He's basically, by all intents and purposes, not doing those anymore. Right now, whatever investigating is going on, it doesn't seem to be very public. And the reason I say that is, and again, for those that are just tuning in, this is a live shot. There it is. There's the home. And by the way, this is where it happened. This is still the crime scene. I know some people say, why do you guys stay outside the house? Because this is where it happened. This is the crime scene, even though they've handed it back to the family and so forth. But this is still, Nancy Guthrie was inside the house, and then somebody brought her outside of the house. So this is still the center. Now, last week, and I think it was towards the end of the week, I'm going to say Thursday, but suddenly next door we saw FBI, and they went to the house on one side, and then they went to the house on the other side. Then they were over on the road. As a matter of fact, the fugitive task force was on the road. So I know that I think the neighbors certainly seem to feel uh, Annie and Tommaso came and laid the flowers. And then also on top of that, it was just the end of last week that I saw a car parking, and it turned out to be two FBI agents that were, as I said, going to both houses, and they were on the road. People, activity of the police, and it just, I don't know if we don't know if they're doing follow up. We're not sure the extent of what they're doing, but we do know that at least it gives the appearance that the investigation is very active. Now, so people want to know, where do things stand? Okay, well, first of all, the FBI, they still have thousands of hours of videotape to go over. It's very possible that at this moment, at FBI Phoenix headquarters, where the FBI is headquartered and going through all of the videotape, it's very possible that they are then coming up with an image and they're trying to determine what is that vehicle. That's very, very possible. I have a problem right now, and I did say this morning on Court TV. What I think is somewhat curious is the Pima County sheriff, who is running the investigation, by the way, it's still his investigation, is that they're not he's not engaging the public. They're not saying to the public, we need this or we need that. It's very as far as the sheriff is concerned, they're not putting out any details. They're not putting out any details. They're not putting out any new updates. And any information that's coming out of it seems to come from media that is reaching out with various questions. So right now, I'll say this: the investigation, they just seem to be very they're just responding to inquiries. They're not the sheriff. They're not, or the FBI, but they're not coming to the media and saying, "Hey, we need this picture put out. Hey, we need to identify this car." They're not saying we're requesting all media to put the following information out. I mean, that's not happening right now. I also want to show you, and it's really because of the importance and the ability of having a drone and the amount of drones that you pick up. There's Brian Linton. You pick up things with the drone. But for those that are watching right now, and again, we're live on Facebook and we're live on YouTube. I will be doing TikTok live later. But this is where I've done some videos where I believe that what we're looking at right here, I believe this is kind of the soft spot of the property. Because then there's just, and it goes straight ahead, and you see the sliding glass doors. It's on, as I'm standing here, I know that the camera's inverted, but it's to the other side of the front door. And the reason that the drone is important is through drones, we have found out, see, now, number one, that's not a huge wall, but it's a little wall. But there's actually a way to get around that wall on the other side, and it isn't even a gate. And look at how, if someone were able to maneuver, which I think would be very easy, let alone at night, and it's so dark. It's so right now, for those that are watching. Now, when I was out here this morning, how dark does it get? I'm telling you right now, if you can see, which I'm sure you can, that yellow sign, if there was someone standing there on the grass, you cannot see them. There's no light. I don't know how else to explain it. It's not just dark. It's absolutely pitch black dark. So if someone went up around there, there's no way you're seeing them. Number one. Number two, it's not like there's anyone walking by. You're not going to walk around here at night. There's coyotes. I don't. You're not walking through any of the brush or anything. There's a lot of cactus, and it's not like friendly walking. It's certainly not like the city where you see people out. My neighborhood at home, I see people, walking at all hours, walking a dog at 11:30, something like that. You don't really see that. This morning when I was here at 5 o'clock for Court TV, I could hear and then see the people that wear those headbands that have a light on them. But otherwise, forget about it. I mean, you cannot see anything. So my point is that to me is just such a soft opening. And look at how you're blocked, and let alone, you don't even have to climb over the wall. There's an opening over there. So you come around there, no one can see anything. And that's a sliding glass door. I mean, even if you broke the glass, um, number one, those locks are pretty easy. I don't know if it was locked, but those locks are pretty easy to, kind of finagle, so to speak. Or at the very least, I mean, you could easily just kind of, with a screwdriver or hammer, break the glass, so then you could just unlock it. But it wouldn't be that difficult, is my point. So I could go through a list of things that the sheriff still, it's unclear of how did they get in the house. I think it's interesting that this morning on Court TV with Julie Grant and Jennifer Coffindeffer. I mean, the sheriff, they won't even say that they believe it was more than one person, but everyone that comes here and you look at the layout here, everyone seems to think that there's no way one person did this alone. And for those that are watching again, there's the, the front door and so forth. So it sure seems as though it would make sense to me. I don't I would be I'll say this, I'd be very surprised if it was just one person who then pulled the car up, went inside, got Nancy. Um, I also think, and my view could be different than some others, but I think, and I will message them later today, but I actually think it'd be helpful to the sheriff. I think they should, like, because right now they're not engaging the public in any way. They're not even engaging the media. Sheriff Christanos, they're reacting. If the media asks them a question, they will sometimes, not all the time, but provide some kind of response. But they're not being proactive with information. Meaning everything right now, it's really become one way, and that could be the way they're more comfortable. That could be the way that they're more used to operating. But I think it would be very useful. I find it hard to believe that that first week when they had the press briefing and he broke down the timeline, I find it hard to believe that on day 38 that they haven't learned more and made some adjustments to the timeline. Because I mean, when I'm not on, I'm speaking with investigators from all over. And one of the things that they tell me is that investigations are very fluid. And so therefore you can start one direction, and then the investigation can actually take you in a different direction. So you think about it, uh, like for instance, I don't I would is there anyone that really believes that this was still just one person? I think what is so surprising for so many people, and I'm sure it's frustrating them, but they cannot figure out what was the vehicle that came down here and then drove away with Nancy Guthrie. It is, and I feel the way a lot of you do, which is we found Saddam Hussein, and they found bin Laden in a cave, well, actually in a house in Pakistan. Saddam Hussein was in a spider hole, but they can't find the vehicle that took an 84-year-old woman out of this house, and it's as if she vanished. I also want to mention to people that, I know some people have commented when I say it's secluded. I wouldn't call it though, like you're not desolate. It's not like in the middle of nowhere. Um, I can see why, for those that are watching, the Catalina foothills. I mean, after spending a tremendous amount of time here, I see the appeal because right now, for those that are watching, you're looking at the circular driveway of the home of Nancy Guthrie. But if I right now, left this driveway in my car, within 4 minutes, I am there's there's nice plazas. All you have to do is then like wind your way down the hill, and then there's nice restaurants. There's um, very high end art galleries. There's salons. There are CVS, coffee shops, and then when I mean, it's not like you have to get in the car for 20 minutes. I interviewed someone. I think his name was the Lamb family. They live on a ranch here in Arizona, and it takes them 45 minutes to leave the property. It's so huge. For them to get into town is like 4 minutes. I'm telling you, 4 minutes from this driveway and you are in front of Starbucks, or you're picking up a prescription at CVS, or you are having a nice lunch, or running errands. It's not like you're way out of the way. The beauty to me of this area is then when you want to leave that and come here, you have, you enjoy tremendous privacy. So I think that's important to know. I don't want you to think that, like someone said to me, why would she be living way out in the middle of nowhere? Well, it's hardly the middle of nowhere. And I met a neighbor that told me that if Nancy, so they've lived in this house for 50 years. This is the home that Savannah Guthrie grew up in. That that 50 years ago, when they landed here or arrived here, Nancy and her husband, and then started to raise their, young family of 3 children, that this, I mean, the woman told me in the last 50 years, every time you'd turn around, a new home was being built. So 50 years ago, this was definitely, I don't think Savannah had a lot of kids on the street to play with or anything like that. But it's really built up. And this woman told me it was actually in the last 15 to 20 years that like this real area really filled in. There's still a lot of empty land and it's a very desirable place to live. But the thing about this area is I think where we're looking at the Catalina foothills and the home of Nancy Guthrie, this is a high-end place. There's a lot of if I want to go back to the B&E. If you were a crew that does break-ins, this is the street zip code area you'd want to go into. Now from what we understand, there's no information that would lead us to believe that she kept a lot of cash in the house. There's nothing that would lead us to believe that she had anything like highly valuable that someone would want. Meaning, and I'm not saying she didn't have valuable things, but where you're willing to break in, something along the akin to 50,000, 100,000, or anything like that. By the way, I want to thank Sherry Prince on YouTube. Thank you, Sherry. Big supporter. Um, so I believe right now that the dynamic with the investigation, I want to just get back to Jennifer Coffindaffer. She was saying that she thinks that this was a kidnapping that went wrong. I Again, I'll play the clip, but and this was on Court TV, she was saying that she believes that what basically happened was someone who had been in the house had done work, for Nancy in some capacity or had did something here. Someone that knew that you had this 84-year-old woman with no dog, no alarm system, living alone, that they knew that and tried to pull off. And also, I think she said she thinks it also had to do with Savannah's wealth, and tried to pull this off. And then it just went astray. I don't know. I mean, part of the problem is we still don't know who was involved with it and what the objective was and what was the motive. And was that just their only goal? Was that the goal that we're going to go in there and we're going to we know that Savannah Guthrie, who has money, that her mom lives there, and we're going to take her out and we're going to try to get this Today Show anchor. We're going to try to get them to pay us this money. I still come back to, if that were the case, and again, I didn't say this in fairness to my friend Jen, but I think if that was the case, I just think the moment the family comes in on Sunday, there would be a note saying, we have her. Do not call the police. Do not call the media. You have 24 hours to get us the information. I just think if this was like really the intent, you would say, we have her. She's in a safe place. This is how you're going to get us the money. You do that, you have 24 hours, we'll drop her off, blah, 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 something like that. And clearly that did not happen because the first element of communication, in fact, did not happen, as we know, until TMZ, right? It was TMZ that, that they said, hey, we got this ransom from these people purporting to have Nancy Guthrie. And well, strange that if in fact it was a situation of a true kidnapping, which, as law enforcement have said, you just don't see a lot of them or hear about that a lot these days because it's so difficult and it's so easy to get caught. So, but the elder abuse angle of the fact that somehow someone had been in the house and someone said, I know this house and there's this lady and she lives there alone and she doesn't have a dog and she's got really strong hearing aids. I think again, Jen Coffinduffer, she was saying that this morning on Court TV. I am hearing things like that. And for those that are familiar with, if you've ever seen Ransom, the film with Mel Gibson, that stems from he's an airline executive, and there is there's he's in some negotiation, whatever. But what happens is it was a caterer that was in the house, and the kid actually noticed the tattoo. When he saw the tattoo that the girl had on, he realized that that was the person because it was a very distinct tattoo that he had seen in his home with the catering company. So I think that's an interesting angle that seems to be getting some play right now is the idea that that's who may be behind it. So, but aside from, oh, thank you, Sherry. Debbie says Sherry sent another one. Thank you, Sherry. I think again right now, folks. Here's one of the problems with the situation, and then they were looking at the utility box. Let me quickly pull up Court TV, and you can see what it looked like this morning. Could have affected nearby surveillance and video evidence, and it has made it harder for police to pinpoint a suspect. Let's talk about this case. Still with me, retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffinduffer, and want to welcome into the conversation Road Patrol Live's creator and host John DePietro, who is so kind to join us so early in the morning. It's 5:30 a.m. Yes, where John is right outside of Nancy Guthrie's house. Good morning to you both. And John, we'll begin with you, of course. Tell us what's going on there where you are. Julie, last week was actually quite a bit of activity, and it started the week with Savannah, her sister, brother-in-law, them laying flowers behind me, which is this growing monument of right outside of Nancy Guthrie's home. And then late last week, we had a lot of FBI activity. When you're looking at the home, I was here. The FBI was both, it was kind of bookends. They were on both sides. And what seemed to catch their attention was one of the neighbors did, in fact, have some video cameras, and there seemed to be a glitch just at the time going back to January 31st, February 1st, when they believed that Nancy Guthrie was abducted from her home. So that sparked conversations and debate of, is it possible whoever did this had some kind of a Wi-Fi jammer? And then we've heard, they're looking into the utility box. So last week was promising that FBI, they were very much in this neighborhood. Again, people need to understand, we have not really left this area. They've stayed very confined. But what I noticed, you still have a lot of fear. There's a lot of security, people installing lights. This area is still gripped, Julie, by this huge mystery of exactly what happened to Nancy Guthrie. It is a mystery, John. You're right. I will post. Julie's very kind. Again, I'll just, folks, again, that was this morning on Court TV with myself and Julie Grant and also Jen Coffindaffer. And what I also, it's good for me to see. I didn't realize how dark it is. My goodness, it is pitch black around me. And I was even using a light to try to light up the back so you could see some of the flowers. But you get a sense of just how dark. But what I was trying to say was, and I realized there was almost a little bit in, is the FBI, they were in, they were at both sides of her home. The FBI was in it. I'll show it in just a moment. I just want to adjust the. But you had the FBI. They went to the home that's over here on this side, and then they initially were at that home. But folks, what I think you should just take away from this is there's something about they are convinced that the clue that they're looking for to break this open, that it exists right around here. They, because I do have, or I hear, I should say, I get messages from some of you asking how come, how come everyone's just at the house? And I was just showing, as I was speaking, for those that are again watching on Facebook or YouTube, there's Matthew from Fox and Brian Enton from News Nation just went, and then I think because of the weather, the some of the other people on streamers and so forth will be here. It's one of those mornings you can, for those that are watching, you really see the clouds. This is the most overcast. It's actually, to be honest with you, it's actually welcoming to have something like this because it's going to be very warm later in the week. But the fact of the matter is, this is still the center of the universe. This is still where the entire investigation has been, right here. The entire investigation, it hasn't gone beyond here. By the way, I also want to thank Dinky Earl, and again Sherry Prince. Thank you on YouTube. So because I do, I get messages from people, and they're saying Nancy liked to hike in certain mountains. You should go search there. Well, this isn't about where Nancy liked to go. This is whoever abducted Nancy. And I also want to mention that, and I have mentioned that. And again, folks, remember right now, um, it is the John DePietro Show. You can follow on Facebook. You can follow on YouTube. I'll be live later on TikTok and doing different updates. Try to jump around onto the different platforms. But this is all about whoever were the individuals that abducted her. And I've also said that when you go back to just day one, and I think this is so important, day one, day two, but that first day, Sunday, February 1st, when the family went inside that house and they could not find her. I'm guessing, we don't know, I'm assuming Annie, her daughter, who lives just about 11 minutes away, her and her husband Tommaso, I'm assuming they have a set of keys to the house, so they knew where there was a set of keys to the house. I mean, Annie grew up in this house with Savannah and her brother, but that day, that first Sunday, February 1st, I believe the word should not have gone out that they had a missing person. I think the word should have gone out is we've had a kidnapping. We've had a violent abduction. We have someone who has been a victim of a violent crime, not a silver alert. There was just one here in Tucson the other day, some man that, unfortunately, I believe suffers from dementia and maybe Alzheimer's, and he wandered away from his house and went for a walk and then suddenly lost his way. It wasn't that. And when you come in and they talk about the inside of a crime scene and they talk about her, her blood on the front steps, I think from the get go, it should have been not, hey, we have a missing person if you've seen her. It's not someone who lost their way on a walk. I think it should have been, we've had a violent, abduction, kidnapping. And I've also said, I think they've immediately should have said, if you are a disposal company, we're going to ask you to hold off emptying any dumpsters in the area. If you own a dumpster, we're going to ask you to do a video of it, identify. By the way, the police should already have a grid of every dumpster in the area. They should have a grid where everybody that there is a camera. I know in dealing with Cranston police, they have a list of every commercial business owner that has camera, ring camera on their business. They already have that. So just as an example, if something happens on Reservoir Avenue, Cranston Police, Commander Padalano, and Chief Lindquist, they know, okay, such and such insurance agency, they have a camera up there. This guy across the street has a camera. So they have, like, you got to do it in a very organized fashion. One of the things that I've noticed about the policing out here with Pima County Sheriff, specifically Sheriff Nanos, is compared to other departments that I deal with, that they seem to be very reactive. I don't see a lot of proactive policing. I don't, I am unaware if they have a grid of all businesses that have cameras. They should also, by the way, have, if you live in a neighborhood, that you could register, some way that you have a camera. And I mean the one that goes out to the street that could be useful. Um, I haven't heard anything like that. There are police departments that, to me, when you install those cameras on flock cameras, on red lights, when you have an organized chain, if you're doing that and you're, to me, very effective policing, then you would come up to certain intersections and say to a business owner, hey, listen, we don't want to intrude on your privacy, but we noticed where your business is right here at this corner. This is actually a pretty good strategic location. Would you mind if we put a police camera up here? And then, like, you could do that, and then you have a full grid around the city. And then when something dramatic like this happens, you're not chasing your tail of like, hey, does anybody have any footage? Which is what they've been doing. Folks, I want to remind you about Serve Pro of Providence. Now, I'm very glad to hear in the Northeast there's a lot of melting going on, and there's going to be more rain coming. Good. But the only problem is that there's going to be water, and people are going to get water damage, possibly fire. I saw there was a bad fire the other night. Water damage, fire damage, storm recovery. Serve Pro of Providence. Call them today, 401 941 5500. If you have a flood, if you have fire damage, if you have smoke damage, Serve Pro Providence, 401 941 5500. Now, as I mentioned, we are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and I try to use all the different platforms. So you can follow me here. You can also follow on TikTok. And then also, I encourage people to go to the website, depetro.com. That's why you see it scrolling at the bottom, because then you have links to Instagram and X. I want to thank Sports Bad Calls. Thank you very much. I don't know. Okay, I could reach out to Kevin. I don't know how much. The question is, could I interview Kevin about the yellow about the case with Nancy Guthrie? I'll reach out to Kevin. Kevin's a friend of mine. He I don't know how much he's following the case. I will tell you that, all due respects to Kevin, I'm not sure. I'll reach out to him how much he's been following it, and I'll also just say that I can tell you that you just learn a lot by being on the ground. That's one of the reasons why that I like doing it, is just for that reason. When you're on the ground and you can see, for instance, the idea that someone was saying, how do you think they got away from here? The only way you'd get out of this area is with a vehicle. Again, this is, and for those that are watching, and I talk about, so this is Nancy's next door neighbor, but the house is actually on the side street. Those are also renters. There's nothing against renters, but the thing about a renter is they don't fully know the neighborhood. So if there was someone that didn't belong in the neighborhood, a renter may not recognize them the same way someone like a Nancy Guthrie's lived here for 50 years. Now, directly across the street from Nancy Guthrie, is another, it's an empty lot. Now, there is a house back there, but the entrance to that house, I believe, is on that side street. So you don't have, where I'm pointing right now, you don't have someone looking out the window saying, I'm not sure, but that looks like someone with a mask prowling around the property. By the way, to me, one of the advantages of the Nancy Guthrie home is the fact of the privacy and that it's secluded. And I went around to the back of the property, and there's a good barrier of land between her. If you want to get to, she does have a home. There is a home behind her, but you have to go down another street. It's a cul-de-sac, and then it's a pretty good distance. You actually, it's not easy to see this home that you're looking at, Nancy Guthrie, from the back because it's a very long winding driveway. You know what's funny around here is sometimes I'm thinking like, okay, I'll take that street, and then I realize no, it's somebody's long driveway. Some people, again, they have very beautiful estates. Many are at least 1 acre. Um, some are 2 and 3 acres. I've even been, some people came out and were chatting with me, and they live in it looks like at least like a 4 acre piece of property. It's up on the mountain. It's really splendid and with just magnificent views of these hills. So that are spectacular. And again, I also understand the people here at night. They don't like bright lights. They don't want. They call it light pollution, and that's why there's no street lights. But the only problem with that is when something like this happens, it's very difficult to identify if there's someone there that doesn't belong. Now, I do want to remind people about Watson Materials. Call my friend Sean. The most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials, 401 885 0600. Again, the snow's going to melt. It's going to be a great spring. Spring is coming. Watson Materials. I assure you, after this winter in the Northeast, you're going to want to spend a lot of time outside. I'll tell you, it's pretty nice being around here. Tucson is growing on me. People keep asking, when are you leaving? The question is, am I leaving? Watson Materials, 401 885 0600. That is something that the media is looking at. Everyone's trying to figure out. No one wants to jump off. You don't want to jump off the train if something big is going to happen. But and I may differ from others, but I believe if they had something going right now, if they were close on something right now, I I think we'd have a pretty good sense of it. I think we would have a pretty good sense of it. So, folks, if you're listening to the radio now, stay tuned because you're going to hear the top of the hour news. There's Brian Enton of News Nation. He's getting ready. He does like a walk and talk. I selfishly, he has. Oh, let me mention also. Thank you to uh, Judith, Judith and Man. Um, well, as I'm showing, News Nation is here. Brian Enton, and then Fox is here. The weather this morning was rather well. For those that are watching, you can see. I think it's a pretty good shot of look at those storm clouds above the cactuses. So, and it was raining earlier. So I think people are kind of. I think some people are going to be here this afternoon. I think the sun is supposed to come out this afternoon. And so I think more people will be out, but it is I'll just address, and again, folks, thank you. I do that's an hour on the radio for those that are watching on YouTube or watching on Facebook. Makes it a little bit different. Where I'm unaware of anyone else that even attempts to do a radio show out here. Let me but I do want to address it is it's not an easy decision. I'll say this. You can't here we go. I think a lot of media, for instance, just the first week that I was here, right here, almost on the corner, was Aaron Katursky and ABC News. And then News Nation, Fox was right here, actually. And then News Nation, I mean, now it's like a cemetery. And then News Nation was down here in the end. And then you had a local station, and then CNN and NBC were down there. So here's the thing. I can't speak for everybody. I mean, no one wants to give up on the case, but it is. I can understand. Number one, it's very expensive to be out here, and you're always on the go between hotel and rental car. Remember, every meal you have to go and get a meal. Right now, the sheriff, they're not giving a lot of access. Actually, they're not giving any access. They're not giving any updates. We've already been through where they don't like people basically parking on the street. So they haven't been the friendliest to the media. When we were here earlier, there was a sheriff that, they have a different, I enjoy a very good relationship with police in the Northeast. I wouldn't say the sheriffs have the best bedside manner around here. You try to be friendly, but you definitely get the sense that if everybody packed up, they would not. Then they're not going to be trying to stop anyone at the airport. Let me put it that way. But but I think if I'm just being, honestly for myself, you don't want to jump off if something big is going to happen. But at the same token, right now, if I'm just and everyone can have a different view of this, you know, people can have different views. I I um I just don't like I said, if they had we're trying to identify this vehicle or they had an image, we need to know who this is or something like that, you know. Um right now they're not giving anything like that. So now again, they could be either playing their cards close to the vest. I think President Trump even said that he thought that this thing was going to be wrapped up pretty soon, but he also kind of said that uh, the second week where he said, "Oh, I think we're going to have a resolution on that." So, and we obviously know that that did not work out. So, listen, I will be doing updates. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. The coverage is going to continue, and then I will be. I like to do updates, and then I'll post them. I don't do the marathon lives just because when you do that, it kind of brings you out of pocket a little bit. But okay, thank you everybody. Thank you to our mods. Thank you to everyone that supports. Remember, you can always send stars. Share that you're watching. Keep a good thought. Keep a good thought for Nancy and the Guthrie family.